You're listening to the Out of the Box podcast with Timmy, Halisa and Sinosure.
Hello, this is Out of the Box podcast and I'm Halisa. So they've Sinosure and Dorothy, of course. And today we have a guest. So yeah, we'll talk about that very soon. Let me just briefly introduce what we want to talk about today. We are in this whole time of resistance, right? And we've had a lot of protests, and you can see that from our podcast conversations, from conversations online and everywhere. So we've just been talking about this broadly, and we just felt like let's not let this conversation die right now, because if we're on this, we should actually be on it. We always talk about it, even without it being a real thing in Nigeria, but since it's a thing right now and there's a preparation for another protest, we're like, let's come out and talk about it. Because when we are talking about protest in Nigeria, there's this whole urge, or there's this reaction by a lot of people that would react in a way that, does protest work? Like, why are you guys protesting? Does protest work? So we want to talk about that. We want to talk about all the alternatives that people give us to protest. I think that, there's a lot to say about when people, about the ideas that people bring about when they want to tell you, oh, don't do this, do that instead. So just a lot of things around that. So yes, let's start the conversation. Yeah. So, let's just have our normal, in fact, let's just go straight to our guest first, and then, would get into the conversation like we always do. So, hi, hello, welcome to our podcast, Olamide. Nice to have you.
Yeah, it's nice being here too. Hi everyone. I'm Olamide from Osun State, a member of the Movement of the People. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So I'd like to hear your own perspective, or just your review of the last End Bad Governance protests, and then we'll talk about just general idea of how this should continue to go on, and maybe the narrative around it. So what's your take on it? What do you think about it? How would you how would you like to just communicate something to Nigerians? Anyways, just go ahead and tell us what you think about it.
Well, I personally, I think it was a success, but I cannot say it is or it was a success because I wasn't part of the organizers. So I do not know what the objectives were, right? But by and large, I think the Nigerian people were able to gain certain things. One, they're able to see the government for what it is. Of course, the government has never, hid its face from us, the people. They're always reminding us that they are not for us. But again, we had the opportunity to see them. We also had the opportunity to see that we can react in certain ways, and they will do things. Immediately the protest was announced, they started sharing rice, they started meeting up with people, religious leaders, started speaking up. We saw a lot of that happen. So, the first one, like I said, the government showed its real face to us. The second one was the people, to an extent, seeing their own power. And the third one, and this is very important, to me or for me, is that certain individuals or certain groups, that have been lying to our people that they are for them, actually came out to expose themselves that they are not for the people, but for the system. Started hearing advices from a lot of people, from religious leaders, professors, a lot of elders in the society telling us that we need to give the government time. But we never heard their voices, or they never lent their voice to the struggle of the people when speaking to the government. Never. But they always have the time, and they always have the voice to speak to us, the people, to always tell us to calm down. So it was also an opportunity to, for the people to be able to recognize and identify their enemies. But by and large, I think it was a success for me personally. The organizers of the protest can speak on that better, given their own objective.
Yeah, the objective, when you said the objective wasn't clear, I wanted to be like, are you for real? because I'm on edge. Like, I'm like, really, the objective is not clear? Because a lot of people will tell you, what was the objective again? Is you guys had 15 demands, right? Do you think that was realistic? That's the Nigerian thing. And now coming to the topic, are you all not wasting your time protesting? And with that, let's, before we come back again to you, Olamide, draw to me. So I'm sure you've heard a lot of people as, a real organizer, right? I feel like, you do a lot of work. So I think when you hear things like that, rhetoric like that, you must have a lot of thoughts. So let's hear you.
Yeah, let me start by sounding like one of the presidential candidates in the last election. It's not me. I'm not the organizer. I was not the one, though. I'm not among them. But anyways, on a more serious note,
And
yeah,
now that you even said that, let me be clear. Organizing, there's a lot of like words that we are not familiar with in our political
exactly.
landscape. When someone says you're a real organizer on ground, it's not like you organize the protest for end bad governance. Oh, let's like come and block your accounts without any court orders, right? So it's a term, right? Like, I don't know, but
Exactly.
yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
So, and that's a very good clarification. And those are the things that we need to like I've been saying, some of these words, some of them get thrown around so much that sometimes we forget the meaning of the, words or the different use cases, of those words. So anyway, Sha, back to the major question which you asked, like you said, there's been a lot of conversation around, protests and uh, the efficacy of protest, and if we are actually going to achieve anything by protesting in Nigeria and everything, But um, I would say that I would say that me personally, I am a protest person. From all of my conclusion from history, and even what is ongoing across the world right now, you know not just when we talk about history, not even like so far back in history, even in the last 10 years, like over the last I think 1 or 2 weeks, I was doing some, I won't say research, but I was just going through some material, and I found out that when we talk about revolution, all of these things, system change, getting the kind of change that we need, and we start going so far back in history, some people get lost. Even in recent times, even in the last 10 years, even in the last like 15 years, across Africa, we've seen like real change. Like, okay, maybe not change, because change means different things for different people, but we've seen people standing up for their rights and, dealing with the most tyrannic governments, via this medium, which is protest, So, um, I so that's the conclusion I've drawn historically. I know that protests always work, they work, but it then depends on, because some kind of protests might require a lot of people to agree. So it's not that protests do not work, but if majority of people hold a view that protests might not achieve its objectives and they do not engage, then you now see protests falling short of some of its objectives. And that is why, some individuals like myself now, would start asking people to look beyond mass action. If we cannot get mass action, we can also get, some other sort of action. And we see it across the world, I don't have a fixed view on climate change yet, but I've seen a lot of radical climate change activists, just 5 people. They do a lot of stuff, and wow, I hope I can still be heard.
It's a thing actually, um, to be delusional. It's a thing. Everybody has a right to be delusional. We also have the right, to be pretty much realistic, right? Most of the people who are telling you that protests will not amount to anything and what have you, just probe into their life ordinarily. You will see a very clear picture of a people that already are defeated. So when you now say, pardon, when you now say things like, say you're saying, they said this, they said that, their thoughts, opinions can be heard. It's part of the things that is very fundamental to every human being in this world. They must be allowed to air their opinion, but it doesn't matter. Because even in their own word, they see no reason to fight for themselves. So I have heard a lot with respect to that kind of narrative. If there's anything that I've also seen, is that such narrative comes from a people who are ordinarily defeated in the state of their mind. Look at them. Look at the people who say all of these things. Nigeria cannot be better. Nigeria cannot be this. You don't need to. You are defeated. Admit it. But they won't. But by the virtue of this kind of statement, we are able to easily decipher those who have been defeated already. So it is our duty, really, as a matter of fact, that we continually engage these people as much as we can to see maybe we can still spook their consciousness. And also, it's our duty to continue to show them evidence to work. When I say evidence to work, go on that street, get things accomplished. I tell you, the last End Bad Governance protest, right? Some people said this. Eventually, after 2 days, they joined. Some people didn't join the last time. By the time this version in October starts, they are going to join. You know why? Because the hardship, while we were doing the last one, has almost doubled now. So, in essence, right, what I'm saying is to say, a lot of people will say what they have to say. It's their constitutional right to do that. You know, we also have people who are constitutional. I mean, did I just say we all also have people? It is also constitutional to be stupid. In as much as your stupidity in no way is standing in the way of other person's consciousness, righteousness, or say good living. So I understand when people say that, it just asks me to, hey, this one, we have a special need for surgical, detailed, I don't want to put excruciating procedure on these people, so that they can feel the burnt, the pain of whatsoever it is that it seems like they are brain dead to. So, I mean, there are people like us. They deserve their opinions to be heard. But the point is, they are defeated. And only by our victory can we even make them see that there is possibility for them. So, that's how I just hang it. Yeah, seriously. It's painful, but that's how it is, yeah.
But like you said, that we have a duty to make them understand that through our victories, you know, like, oh, let's win this victory and then let's show you. You know, I'm kind of like, really? You know? What's like, why is it our duty to like get some winnings from this protest? Like, when I say us, just like the people that are pro-protest, you know, why is it your duty to get something from it to prove to someone else that, you know, maybe to prove to yourself or to prove to someone else that you were right? Because at the end of the day, Olamide likes to say that it's the results that will show the correctness of the method, right? I don't think I'm quoting him; he's quoting someone else, but maybe he'll give us the name of the person who said that. So yeah, I don't know that it's our duty to prove to them, and then they'll be like, okay, yeah, now I can join finally. Now I have reasons to join because I can see that some people have been successful with this. If you get what I'm saying. Okay.
Yeah, seriously, I get you. But it goes without saying as well, right? That they can eventually become a distraction if they are not careful. And I think it was Olamide that was emphasizing that one time. That the job, really, of those of us who are seeing reasons to fight, right, is not to look at people who have vowed not to fight. Our job is actually to go and fight. Because we know that the mortuary of consciousness where they are is not especially a future that we desire. That's exactly why we are going out to fight. Now, let's say there's miracle and they wake up after 3 days of actual living in that mortuary or staying in that mortuary as a dead person consciously, welcome. It's a welcome development. But I just think generally that the perspective that is most revolutionary to hold in this kind of instances: educate, if you can, especially if you can do this concurrently. Educate and fight. Educate and fight. Educate and fight. And don't forget, some of them are going to actually stand in your way. Also, don't forget, crush. Educate those who are on the other side, who are not interfering, and fight. Crush is fighting, educating. The job is just like find a way to manage your energy so much that you don't burn out. Because if you burn out, any soldier lost, right, is a drag on the possibility of victory in the war. So that's how I largely view them. If they stand in a way, let's find a way to crush them. It's simple as that.
Yeah.
There's no two ways about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of points to be made there. But before we go back to that, then what do you think, Olamide, when people are telling us that, okay, you're just wasting your time, or really protest doesn't work, and they even tell you, okay, tell me where protests have worked before, things like that. So what do you think about the general mindset right now, even though that there's a feel that there's a shift going on, really, but there are sometimes I feel like I need more to be trusting of the energy that's in the environment. But still, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, before I go on to that, I quickly want to touch on what Sanisha said. And it's very important we understand this, especially those that are revolutionaries, that it is the job of the conscious to make the unconscious conscious of the unconscious action. Basically, it is not our job to make them conscious. It is their job to still make themselves conscious. Nobody made me conscious. I don't believe anybody made anybody conscious. What we had were we had people, we had materials, that made us see our unconscious action and then made us conscious. So it is very important we don't get lost in, educating and educating. Yes, we must educate, we must educate, but our education is just to point out the unconscious action of our unconscious brothers and sisters and move on. That was what Cabral was saying when he was, defining the people and, emphasizing on the difference between the population and the people. Some people are just, and when I say people now, like some individuals in our society are just there ready to work for the oppressor. They are ready to work, towards the destruction of the society. We cannot waste our time, trying to change their minds. I think it was Paul in the Bible that said he handed somebody over to the devil. I can't remember how he said it exactly now, but we have to just in biblical sense hand them over to the devil and move on. But at the same time, continue to educate when we can and fight. I think financial put it very well. And it was Lenin that said that the revolution has proved the correctness of our theories, ideological theories or revolutionary theories. So it is through our results, right, that we know our ideas are the right ideas. Right, it's not just by saying it, and it's not when we have revolution that we know that our ideas are right. Through our praxis, like our interaction with our people, the way we, when we interact with them, we talk, and the actions we take, the quantitative, the quantitative results that we get, we show that we are on the right path. So, for instance, talking about the effectiveness of protest. So, for instance, looking at the Aba Women's Riot of 1929, I'm going to the question you raised, right? Looking at the Aba Women's not riots, that was a mistake, a revolt, because we have to also we need to be careful of the words our oppressor use for us. They define our own struggle for us. So yeah, the Aba Women's Revolt of 1929, and the goal was to end the warrant chief system and replace it with the clan heads, like remove the warrant chiefs and replace them with the clan heads, and that was effective. Protest was effective, and they achieved that. As a matter of fact, women were then appointed, not just the clan heads. Women were appointed, and that served as an inspiration to the Egba women, the Abekuta women. That's the 1947 revolt against the Alaki. And not just that they won, it's not just that they won the case against taxation. They actually deposed, they usurped the Alaki of Egba land. And, back in 1947, that was, something else. You're removing a king. Recent times we have the Ali Must Go protest, right? Against the fee hike, and a lot of people we say that that wasn't effective because the fee wasn't wasn't reversed. A lot of students were killed, but that was what in Nigerian league were gingered the students' union, to go for the anti-SAP protest of 1989. That 1978 protest, because they still held on to that. The students were now aware of the power that they have, and they still held on to that, and that pushed them from the anti-SAP protest of 1989. And in the normal way they respond, we had the decree 49 from the government saying that we cannot students cannot hold protest or cannot have the activities unless it's in the interest of the ruling class. So we cannot question, or it cannot be questioned. The effectiveness of protest cannot be questioned. In 1960, there was this Anglo-Nigerian Defense Act, not Act, Pact, Anglo-Nigerian Defense Pact of 1960. It already passed in the House of Assembly, in Parliament. They already passed it, but we had protests, and it lasted for 2 years. They passed it in November of 1960, and in 1962 they had to what's the word now? Is it retract? Is retract the word that they do to abrogate? They had to abrogate that particular act in 1962. That was victory. That was victory. So the reversal of fuel subsidy is just like reversal of fuel subsidy. That has passed. They said they removed fuel subsidy, but we can protest and ensure they bring back fuel subsidy. We did it in 1960, and we had our result in 1962. And we have other examples like that there, like the ones I've given, about women, the Ali Must Go protest, the anti-SAP protest. And as a matter of fact, in 1990, because they held on to that 1989 anti-SAP protest, in 1990, Babangida had to call for elections when there was a stop in between 1989 and 1990. There was a stop in between. They did not continue with the protest for a while. But when they wanted to start all over again, at the wake of the anti-SAP protest of 1990, Babangida had to call for elections. So to say or to ask if protests are effective or if protest is effective is it's not a very serious question to ask. And I think Sanosha also made that point clear, that people asking this kind of questions, they're not just interested in doing anything. They're just looking for an excuse. And again, just to round up on the question, right? Personally, I believe protest is a tool. It's a strategy, right, that we employ. And that was why I said to the organizers earlier that it's the organizers that can actually say if a protest was successful or not, right? Because we have objectives, right? So we have a goal. We want to achieve something, right? Then we say, oh, what tool can we employ to achieve what we want to achieve? And we say, oh, let's use protest. And when I say protest, I mean march, or rallies, because that is what we have. We have other forms of protest. We have boycott. Boycott is a type of protest. Picketing is a type of protest. I'm looking forward to us having this in Nigeria. Silent vigil. I'm looking forward to having that. Maybe I will lead that one of these days. It's a form of protest, but I think the one we're talking about is when we march or when we have rallies. That's the word, public demonstration. That's what we're talking about. So if that is what is going to get us what we want, let us apply that and get it. So it is the objective that defines or that dictates the strategy to employ, and then we draw our analysis to see if we've achieved whatever we want to achieve. I hope I've not bored you with my long talk.
No. A lot of things were said there. And okay, if let me bring it to a more recent protest that was had in Nigeria. Let's say NSAS, right? During NSAS, we knew, or we could say, because it's sometimes too easy to just say, oh, the protest did not have any date, it did not have any planners. But we know that that's like kind of wrong, because there's always like people organizing on the ground and people actually planning it. Now, those people that are planning it can be pro people or pro government or pro their own pocket. So if you say that it's the organizers of the protest that determines if the protest was successful or not, then you might want to say that the NSAS protest was not you, but like people might want to say it was successful, because if the people that were behind it were like behind the planning of it were like maybe these musicians or these slightly well-to-do people, or full bourgeoisie in Lagos, if they were the ones that were like behind the the whole organizing, because people were telling you like during the protest they were going out. There were people that were serious there, and there were also people that came for the party in quote, you know. So if those people went inside with the government and made a deal and came out, and they told you that, okay, now the protest is done, I'm sorry, it's done now, let's go, and they're now telling you, oh, you didn't go, and that's why they shot you, why things, like, you know, the wildest things are being said. But I mean, I'm trying to interrogate you, saying that the people that, you know, plan it are the ones that would determine if it was successful or not. And then you made another point again, which was a good point, which is one of the things that I wanted to discuss today, which is, you know, protests versus boycott. Because I've seen in a lot of contexts that a lot of people who are sort of like revolutionary, and I think revolutionary, we have to take it as, it's not just a stamp, it's something that you need to grow in. You can't just say, I'm a revolutionary now, I have all the answers. You have to still grow, right? There are a couple of people that have been talking about protests like it's something separate from boycott. They'll be like, oh, why are you doing protests? Why aren't you boycotting? And you're like, aren't you talking about the same things? Okay, now maybe we need to start naming them correctly. We are talking mass march here, and we are talking boycott here, because those two things, people have been using it like, okay, no, let's not go out. You guys are doing this. You're causing people to die. When it's like, okay, no, none of these organizers, whether pro-government or anti-government, raised the gun and, you know, shot at anyone. It was the police, you know, that did it. So I've said a lot of things, but I want us, you know, some of these conversations that we have, even though we don't go to the polls and win election, it brings some certain type of narratives to the forefront of conversation. Even though that's not really at the end of the day, it's not the final place to be at. It's just there's a big need for you to talk about mass march the way you talked about it, and rally, and when you talk about boycott, because many people are like, oh, let NLC just shut down. Let's not protest. Let's just, and then I'm like, what are you saying? You know, the wording, what is going on here with the language, what is happening in your mind? You know, that, you know, those kind of things are. This is me giving commentary, anyways. I'm not like asking you directly, you know, direct questions, but yeah, I did ask one question regarding the NSAS thing actually, and then if you want to put more thought towards the whole mass march and rally and boycott. And it was good that you gave us a rundown of Nigerian history, at least in the 20th century, of how protests have actually worked, and you kept it home, you know, so that's good. Yeah, so yeah.
So just to address the NSAS question, right? Fanon said when we revolt, it's not for a particular culture or political ideology. You know, we revolt simply because for so many reasons we can no longer breathe. And that is, for me, when I see a lot of my brothers and sisters at the barricade on the protest ground, it's not because they actually understand my 15-point agenda, or they understand my ideology, or they understand my plan. It's because they cannot just take it any longer. You know, it got to a point that we couldn't just take it. Regardless of, call it SARS, of course, the name was SARS, right? But we're really talking about police brutality, and you know that's one of the shortcomings of protest, anyways, and not necessarily shortcomings of protest in itself, but the shortcomings of not being organized, right? But the point is, majority of those at the protest ground, on the protest ground during NSAS, were not really there because they wanted to organize or they had this grand plan or anything. They were there because it was enough. You know, enough was enough at that time, right? So they did not have a plan. They did not have a measure, as it were, to say, oh, when this is done, I'm saying they did not go there based on that. Like, when this is done, we will go home. Some people, some individuals, right, organizers, and of course in a protest, it's very possible to have more than one organizer, like with different agenda, right? So the organizers, that is those with plans, you know, those that went there to, you know, seek favors, those that went there to make names for themselves, those that went there genuinely to reform the police, and those that went there to say, no, it's not about reform. because when we study the end SARS again, it's moved from end SARS to end police brutality. And that's another beauty. Probably we'll talk about this. That's another beauty of protest. People will start growing in their thinking, like rapidly. They will start, growing in their consciousness. They will say, oh, this is not about SARS. This is not just about SARS. Sorry, I'm digressing. I just want to make this one. But this is not just about SARS. This is about police itself. Oh, it's not about end police brutality. It's about end governance, end bad governance. You don't need to preach too much to them at that point before they know it's not about SARS, it's not about police, it's about the system, end bad governance, right? So some people were already clear in their thinking, going to the protest. They're like, I'm going to this protest ground not just because of SARS, but because of the system. So based on those with plans, you can say, oh, this was successful and this was not, or this was, was successful, or this was not successful, based on their objective. For those of us that went to the protest ground, just to make it known that is unacceptable. That's unacceptable. We can just sit down in our house, in our homes, in our rooms, and say, okay, I think this is successful. We had no plan, really. And that is, again, one of the limitations of protest. And I hope we're going to talk about that. Limitations of protest. It is just we responding, right? I watched, is it Lai? That guy, the comedian, I think his name is Lai.
Yes.
Yeah, his 5 minutes TED talk talking about the law of inertia, that it's an object will remain at rest until it is acted upon by an external force, right? We must have an internal mechanism, because that is what protest does, or that is what protest is really. We responding, so we have to wait for them to do something, to us, before we then say, oh, we know agree, we know accept, then we now react to it. And the form it takes, it's not usually planned in the sense that it is just that we can no longer take it. That is why we are responding. And that is why to us, and when I say to us, so-called revolutionaries, we find it very, to use a very light word, interesting that people are not even protesting. Because that is the minimum, that is the least. You're expected to react. We don't need you to, sit down, plan, and arrange yourself. No, the least is for you to protest. And that is why we are always bewildered. We're like, why you guys not doing anything about it? But going back to the answer, so that I will not speak for so long. The question about how do we measure success, right? I'm going back to the answer. We need to have a plan to be able to measure success. And that is why I'm very big on organizing. Before we go to the protest ground, organizers, and I want to assume that all protests have organizers. They must sit down and plan and have KPIs like they do in the private sector. Have KPIs, to be able to measure. Have SMART goals, to be able to measure their progress. And again, for revolutionaries, and this is for revolutionaries, not for everybody. Revolutionaries know that protests cannot bring revolution, right? Protests will bring reform, and that is not a bad thing. I was talking about quantitative achievement. What we need is a qualitative achievement, moving from one phase to another phase, moving from the phase of oppression to the phase of liberation. That is qualitative achievement. But we will still take gradual steps, we take baby steps. That's quantitative achievement, and we cannot discount it. We cannot say that does not, that does not matter. So yeah, the reform too matters, but ultimately we're looking towards revolution, not reform. And protest cannot bring revolution. Protest will definitely bring reform if it's going to bring.
Are you talking
anything.
about protest like mass march, or you're talking about all forms of protest that there is, and you're saying that cannot bring revolution? Because if you made that learning point of saying that, because right now we don't know the outcome of what is going to be, right? We don't know. So it's like, if you now make the point of, okay, this is going to just bring it's not going to bring a revolution. So I'm trying to understand what type of protest you're talking about, just generally, because protest, I see it as resistance, except if you're like, okay, yeah, we're resisting this, and then share more light on what you're trying to say there.
Yeah, I fall into this trap almost every time, right? When we talk about revolution and the need to define revolution, because it means a lot of things to a lot of people, right? What we look at really is categorical conversion, and what that means is just change within the system. Still, it was still Lenin that said, and I think it was addressing, was it Lenin or I can't remember who, but I believe it was Lenin that was addressing his comrades, that comrades, we now socialists, and I'm paraphrasing now, that socialists are now taking over power, but we do not have socialism. So the fact that we do not have capitalists in power does not mean we actually have revolution. right? If we have it, if you do whatever we want to do now, and and Tinubu resigns, right? That doesn't mean we have revolution. If Shore becomes president today, that doesn't mean we have revolution, right? And even we can even drag that and say revolution is continuous, right? But when we talk about, and I don't want to define revolution because that I can if you want me to, but again, that would then beg the question, what do you mean by this? What do you mean by that? But yeah, we have to go by the definition of revolution that we agree with and see, can protest achieve what we want? Can protest actually change the system? Like I said, protest can bring about reform that then leads to revolution. But that we want to protest, any form of protest really, we directly lead to revolution. I personally, I probably have to say that personally, I did not see that. I did not see that happen. And again, no one thing can lead to revolution. And I think that is one of the things we need to also be clear about. Let me do one thing. It's that thinking that comrades or revolutionaries say, no, let us only do boycotts. No, let us only do protests. We sometimes forget that we are battling a system. It's like an octopus. We are battling a system, not just one thing. So we cannot employ just one thing when we're battling a system. And when a system is to be overturned, it is not one thing that you overturn it. Revolution is not an event. It's a process. But if you want me to then define revolution, we can go on and on about that. And again, just to be very clear, I'm not saying that protest
I think this is just like a very interesting leftist debate. Because at the end of the day, they'll be like, okay, how leftist, how to the left are you? Because I feel like when you say incremental reforms, that's also like, it's not even like something that is very, very acceptable when you're like incremental reform. Then when you're like revolution, which is like maybe like change, like really like change in the system, then is it going to be like by incremental reforms? I wanted to even pose that question to do it to me, but let me want to say something before I
just let me just add this. Revolutionaries, leftists, because I'm sure they will listen to this. We all understand the principle of quantity and quality. Quantitative to qualitative. It's part of our dialectics when we study dialectics. It's part of it. We learn that really. It's just like a drop of water. It's just continue dropping, tam, then it turns into a river. So we understand that part too. We understand that part. But I think the difference really is that we are not stopping at the drop. We are not looking at reforming that system. We are looking at overturning the system. And we understand this, that it is not one thing that will overturn the system. Right? It's a series. We have to do a lot of things to overturn the system. So when we have, for instance, we are talking about democracy and we say, we want INEC to be independent. That is a fight every revolutionary must engage with. But no revolutionary is under the illusion that when we have free and fair election in Nigeria, we've had revolution. But we know we need to have a free and fair election to have revolution. We know it's a prerequisite that in every revolution, well, not free and fair election alone, but in every revolution there must be democracy. There is democracy in every revolution. The socialist revolution is
before
democratic.
the revolution, or like is it in the process of building the new world?
No, socialist revolution is democratic. And I'm not talking about Western democracy. I'm saying that the system itself, when you establish that,
a whole debate in like this is why I would love for us to have different wings of, I want to say, leftists, leaning thought. And when I say like a little bit more progressive leaning, ideas where it's like, okay, let's all be in our own organizations and we can actually like really be able to interrogate this thought, because there are some people like that will be on this side and they'll tell you, you know what, I don't mind what's this guy's name, Traore. That is I don't mind a military, like, because it's like, if you're going to shake this system, and even though it is not democratic, but maybe we can work towards, that's going to be the increment on that person's own mind. It's like, okay, let's start from here, like let's shock it, the system, whether it's dictatorship or whatever, give it 10 years and put everybody to work. And then maybe later we can come and bring democracy. And so, because of how democracy is right now, a lot of people will tell you, in fact, don't talk to me about democracy when you're talking about this. And I understand it, but just hold on with your thoughts. I wanted to ask this question. I'm sure a lot of us came across the clip by Delifa Rotimi on saying that we are not citizens, so why do we interact with the states like we are citizens, right? So those kind of thoughts, some of the people that were able to interact with that online were saying that it demobilizes people. So or it take that, protest is not it, when some people are literally putting their life to it. So that's the reason why you might understand when people are reacting like, yeah, this is actually everything, because I'm going out there, I don't know if I'm going to come back home. I know that's a scare tactic, but it's also a reality when you consider how the states look at us as not citizens, right? So what do you, Sinosha, do you think that what was your thought about the clip that you saw? What do you think about what Delifa Rotimi had to say? If you can also give us a background of what he actually said.
I would have loved for you to ask Olamide.
I don't want to ask you again. You will know what to say.
If you want to catch Olamide by a corner, just ask him that.
I'll allow you to answer.
There was a time I had to tag him on a tweet I saw him making, and I was saying to myself like, this chief, if you like say he never won't accept, say this is don't go. But I think largely Uncle Dele has committed a gaffe, but owing to his ego and the fact also that he has a population of people that are not so knowledgeable about this fight that we have on our hand, who are still sharing him on, makes things very difficult. When you're a person who came with the guise that you are anti-government, let me say you are a revolutionary. Because now you're a revolutionary does not mean you'll be anti-government. You only be anti the kind of government, right, that is reactionary. Or perhaps some kind of government that does not deliver the ordinary dividend. Now, in this case, what I see him trying to do, right, is more or less like, I have said this before. Let me repeat it again. He's doubling down on vanity. He's vain now. It's no longer that material. It does not longer command that kind of material contribution that he makes to public discourse again. The only thing he has now is just airtime, not content. So when it comes out, and a lot of people said he's demobilizing, the people that wants to be mobilized, they don't need to listen to Delifa Rotimi as a duo. You know why? Because it's very obvious. We said all of these establishment guys have ruined this country. He agrees with us. We said Wike is a dictator, some kind of emperor in Rivers State. We said OBJ is a bad person. He agreed with us. But because he felt, and this is the issue, Olamide, I don't know, maybe you can remember this very well, but moral philosophy, where we are talking about the deontological approach. We're talking about whenever you have moral philosophy in any climb, some other people are largely deontological, some of them are teleological, and in essence, what I'm trying to say, so I won't bore you with rhetorics, is that we've got a lot of people, right, who have different ways of viewing how to arrive at the solution to a problem. Unfortunately, it seemed to me like somebody who falls in the group of people, right, who thinks no matter how you get there, in as much as you shall get there, you've gotten in as much as you get to the end point, even though you do not learn to actually pass the main road, which is the actual way of moving towards that kind of end point, if you pass through the waterways with your clothes fully soaked and what have you, in as much as you shall get there, you have gotten there. Then that's a problem with people who are saying, you can't caress an oppressor to unshackling you. You can't caress somebody who's gotten a chokehold to release the shock. So it begs the question, what exactly is the material reality that we want to get to? Like, when I say material reality, I say it is in the sense of, where will they go? Gong. Nigerians will understand it much better that way. Where we are going is, we are trying to upturn the system. Then what Ogadele has said in this past election is to say, no, the system is not the problem. The people in the system are the problem. But most of us are saying, no. The people are a symptom of the bigger issue, which is this system that allows people like them to perpetuate themselves in power and usurp democracy. So what he came to do in a real sense is to double down on that position of saying the people are the problem. That's why he found that young man as a worthy person to restoring Nigeria on the path of progress. And then he does something these days that's very interesting. And I say this authoritatively, I'm not sure he's demobilizing anyone. I'm just going to say what he is displaying is high level of tomfoolery. It will amount to nothing other than just give a lot of material that people will use against him in the future, not for bad or anything. Just to point at him like, you have always been unstable. These are your views in 2022, 2021, 2020, 2019, 2018, 2017, up to 2015. Now, this was your view from 2023, 2024, upward to 2034, assuming that he continues this nonsense for the next 10 years. So, he practically is coming from a place of saying the people who call him out are majorly people who protest, who try to upend the system, who tries to turn the system. So, in essence, it's largely now coming at them by demonizing protest. And I have always said this. I said there is no idea of democracy that I have heard of, that I've read of, that I've witnessed in any climate, in any setting, within any group that doesn't allow for people to protest. So talking down on protest is his way of saying my solution is the best. But any revolutionary knows that arguing about approach is the least of conversation. Arguing about the problem is actually, trying to argue to establish the problem is actually the main bone of contention. Now, you must also note that after you have understood the problem, the need, you might have different processes by which you want to sort things out. But one thing is constant. Revolutionaries will speak to sustainable pathways and solutions. People who are reactionary or who are perhaps not properly grounded in the idea of what is being fought for, they might say, okay, we don't care about the process. We just want solution. We'll make it sustainable when we get there. But see, wait, I was telling people, I said, for instance, if you're a revolutionary leader and you want to emerge in an office, it's better you build a population of revolutionaries. And it will take me quickly to Bolivia. Olamide, in Bolivia, we heard there was a coup. On the street, people have mobilized. Based on findings, they have mobilized. They were the ones that stopped the coup. Because when you take power in a system where the imperialists are still having a field day, what will happen is that they will sponsor every kind of attack against it. You need people who are grounded in the philosophy. Thought in this case. That's what I mean by philosophy. You need people who are grounded in the principles and ideals that surrounds what you want to do. So they know that you are following the plan. You are not steering away from the plan. So anybody who is coming against you is a saboteur. So they know how to face them outrightly. For you, you don't even have to move your military might yet. The ideological might, the ideological base is going to move the might. So for him, right, assuming that young man emerged, we would have had instances wherein they will emerge in office and they will say, oh, we are sorting out Tinubu's problem. We are sorting out Buhari's problem. We are sorting out Goodluck Jonathan's problem. And they will do that for the next 20 years. Unleashing fascism, penury, and all sorts of anomalies like the current one there is doing on the Nigerian people. So to put succinctly, right, because I know I have rambled on, is to say the Liverpool team is lost in his egoistic self. He cannot find a way out of this rabbit hole. All he just has to do is to completely dig in until he perishes. So the point is he willing to unlearn everything that has taken him this far and retrace his step? Not to me or anyone, but to the ideas that I've heard him communicate or enunciate in the past. So it's really, really a bothering one. But if you ask for the background is coming from a place of egoism. It's some kind of egocentrism. He's playing the God. I have the thought. I am an exemplary speaker. I am this. I am that. I am this and that. And then everything lacks substance. That's why he gets a lot of airtime with so little in content to dish. So anybody who has not mobilized,
this is a lot of critique. I don't even think I'll call it criticism. It's an I don't think when I say. It's when you're like, okay, critique this person's work and give a literature review or something. So it's just like that. It's like, but when you say criticism, I know everything is like, it registers as negative to everybody. But I think it's just an analysis from your own end.
Yeah, the first mistake as a person who's a thought shaper that you must not make, right, is the mistake of ignorance. Especially when you are an egocentric person. Immediately you are ignorant and you spew any level of ignorance, right? For you to go back and rationally reassess yourself and come back later and issue a rejoinder and state things clearly might be a very, very difficult task, a task that they call Herculean. So in essence, I think he has found himself in that trap, but egocentrism will not allow him to reconsider his step. Understandably so. So he has not mobilized anybody, right, that I can point to. Of course, I do not see everywhere in the world. So I'm not sure he's demobilizing anybody that I can point to. What about you? What about Olamide? What about Duotimi? Why are we worried? It's just like a fart in the hair. That's all it is.
Duotimi, what do you think that Dele Farotimi was trying to achieve? Because I'm trying to think about when people speak, I'm like, what's the intention of this now? You say, okay, the people are not citizens, because everything you do, right? I hear what people say, and sometimes usually there's pros and cons to this type of my approach to things, where it's like, yeah, I hear you, I hear the words you're saying, but like I'm trying to find out the intent. Like, why are you saying this? Because there are some things that I would just not say. And based on the context of where I'm at, just and the platform that I'm giving, this is now a huge platform. Like, there are some things that you feel like you need to kind of like intentionally project. So I'm trying to understand, like, what is the intention you think that he was trying to pass across to people? Because I don't think the words, I don't know if it was taken like maybe as he maybe meant it to be. But maybe that's just because I've not really been deep with his work that much. I just know they do not die in their war thing. Okay, Olamide, what do you think? What was your own perspective on this?
No slander of Dele Farotimi will be allowed.
Yes,
please.
so fight for your man.
I think, I don't even know where to begin from. All right, but I think earlier we're talking about dialectics. Someone we're talking about when I was saying there are positives and negatives in everything, and we must always, as revolutionaries, seek the positivity or the positives in everything and use that. And I'm going to take that approach when it comes to Dele Farotimi. Protest, really, is a combination of two things. One, you expressing that you do not agree with something, and the other is you making a request. So the first is, no, we are demonstrating, we do not want this, we are against this political move, we are this, we are that, disapproval, showing disapproval or your objection. And then you say, these are the things we want, or this is the thing we want, right? And there's a factor there that the other party is listening. That the other party is actually interested in what you're saying and is interested in you okay, why are you objecting? Or let me even check what you're talking about. There must be that factor too, right? And this is my own thinking, anyways. So like it is scientific. So when the delivery to me said, and I'm not talking about we being citizens or we not being citizens. I think that's a different conversation entirely. And I'll probably touch on not on the comments, but I think why we shouldn't, you shouldn't have said something like that. Yeah. So I'm not talking about the citizen thing. I'm talking about protest. That why I believe he was saying something towards protest is not um effective. But actually, that wasn't what he said. What he said was that looking at the full clip, what he said was that we need to do more than, at least that was what I got out of it. That we need to look more. We should do more to the protest. But back to positives and negatives,
But are you
right?
sure
Looking at
it
the
was what
positive
he
of it.
said, even though you're not quoting him verbatim? Like, is it what you got or what he said? Did he say that we
No, that
should
was
do
what.
more than protest?
No, that was what I got from. I can't remember the exact thing he said, but that was what I got from him. But talking about the positives and
Is that
negatives, from
exactly what
the
he
comment
said?
he made.
Can you guys hear me
That's
now?
I said.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
yeah.
can. But like I said,
Oh, okay.
that was not the
Yeah.
exact thing he said, but that was what I got from what he said. Looking at the positive aspects, right? That we need to actually understand the system we engage with or we are engaging with, really. That they are not going to listen to us. All the examples that I've given, all the protest examples that I've given, it was not like they were listening. They were not listening. We had to add some in Yoruba lingua, Dagbanachoko, to it for them to do anything. So they were not listening. So, marching on the streets, holding placards, we must do extra. And that is what I got from what he said. And I know the negatives to it, demobilizing people. That cannot be excused. Right. But I'll prefer to focus on the positives, that we need to understand the system we're engaging in so that in our plans we factor that in. So, and that was why I was talking about the objective. So for instance, if the name of my organization is NWP and there's a protest on the 1st of October, and I believe that the government is not going to listen to me, I will not say I will not participate in that protest as a revolutionary. I will participate and go and look for conscious people on the protest ground, to bring into my organization. I'll go and look for those that are ready to risk their life to fight the system and organize with them. That's the positive part of it. I will not be saying, "Oh, don't go and protest, don't go and do this because I feel this way, because I feel that way." Because again, based on my own analysis, and I'm not saying this is the analysis. I'm saying based on this is just me thinking out loud, right? It's just a scenario, right? So if I think that the government is not going to listen and I'm just going to be on the protest ground for this and they'll come and kill me and I don't want to die, I don't want to do this excuse that they give all the time, I'll still be on the protest ground organizing with my people. So we need to look beyond the request and showing of disapproval alone, and that was what I got from that, from what he said on the question of citizenship. And I think Sinoshaw touched on that. I think when we get to a point in life, we need to just stop talking, right? If you do not have anything to say, we can actually keep quiet. If they invite me to what's it called to a news center to come and talk, and I don't have anything to say, I don't need to say anything. On the question of citizenship, he might be right, but not at that point. When people are suffering, we are demanding certain things from those that we've given power to. And it is at that time you believe you want to remind us that we are not citizens. No, that is not the right time. And he has always been saying that. If you've read his book, Imperative of the Nigerian Revolution, Do Not Die in Their War, he made that very clear in the two books that we are not citizens. And to a large extent that I agree based on his presentation, but not then, not there, I mean. Right. So if you do not have anything other thing to say, we can just keep quiet. We can just, if you cannot support, let's just be looking, And I think it was our brother comrade Hetty that, shared that wonderful word of knowledge with us, that we should know where and when to speak as revolutionaries or as conscious people. We should know where and when to speak. And that's that for me on Egbondele Farotimi. I hope he comes back home as soon as possible. I think he's just outside playing for now.
How old is this man again? Wole Soyinka. How old is he?
Wole Soyinka is 90.
Okay, great.
Is they
Anyways,
refer to me is not coming back home. You can't come back. What you mean come back home? Can you guys hear me?
yeah.
Yeah, you see, I find it very interesting that we've dedicated so much time talking about, an irrelevant, subject, right? Because for me, it's irrelevant. The majority of the people in the Nigerian political space today, you find out that they are popular not because of their actions, they're just popular because they've just been the only ones that have been talking. And for a long time, people have sat down and let them, talk. A lot of people are not interested in politics in Nigeria, and that's why you see the likes of some of these individuals, that parade themselves in our political space, who the only thing that they can do is just to talk. That's all. It's when after talk you finish. You understand? They've been there because they give them the mic to speak, not because there's anything that they're going to say that is spectacular, but because a lot of people are not even interested in talking. So I find it amazing that we're even spending so much time. I mean, he's not coming home. When you say he's going to come home, he's not going to come home. It was never anywhere. You can't come to where you don't belong. There are people that are telling you clearly when an individual says protest is a waste of time. And I was listening to the conversation for a while. When an individual says protest is a waste of time, that individual should automatically be disqualified from saying any other thing. Because people, you see, a lot of people, when people are speaking, you need to investigate where they are speaking from. If I come and tell you that protest is a waste of my time, you understand? You need to investigate this person that is even saying this thing. What is his lifestyle? What is his objective? Where is he getting at? You cannot not be a radical and tell me that being radical is a waste of time. It's not even in you. You have not participated. You have not protested, at least in recent times. I don't know about his past history, but in those days, a lot of people protested. Many of them are no longer protesting now. Many of them have left that line. They don't want to protest. So there is nothing like, I'm going to bring it all back together, right? And I want to take a little bit backwards to where we say we cannot achieve a revolution through protest or I think these thoughts, again, for me personally, and this is my own personal opinion, I think these are misguided thoughts. And again, maybe people have different objective of what a revolution is. I think there's an utopian final dream of when we get here, and that dream, I don't know how achievable it is, But for me, I see a revolution to be when people stand up, whatever the collective agree on, whatever the collective, if majority of people, because me, I'm a Democrat, right? So whatever majority of people agree that, okay, yes, this thing is right for us at this particular time, and they put their foot down, because leadership, however, whatever kind of leadership that it is, when you choose leaders, you give them power, and people always abuse that power. If from if you go back in time, people would always abuse that power whenever you give them power. So people need to put their foot on ground and say, oh, we've given you this power because we need to go do this, we need to go do that. All of us cannot lead at the same time. Many of us don't. Like, if they say, okay, all four of you on this conversation right now, or in this conversation right now, come and be Nigeria's president, I can bet you that most likely most of us will say we're not ready, because we have other things we want to do in life. Me personally, let me use myself as an example. I have other things I want to do in life. I want to raise kids. I want to get, before I now say, and I'm talking for myself, and I know a lot of people too have all this kind of, some people are still in school, some people are still trying to get their foot in, some people will even tell you like, oh, they want to make this amount of money to be to be comfortable for their family, and before they say they want to venture into leadership and politics and everything. So that's why we have leaders, because there are people who are ready to make that particular sacrifice, or there are people who have gotten to that point in their life right now where they can actually lead us. And whenever you give people these positions of power, most times or sometimes they abuse that power. So people, for me, a revolution is when people put their foot on ground to say, okay, we agree on this particular thing. This, like, before I was born, people have been complaining about NNPC, right? And that, in fact, I'm going to come there, because when we talk about this political analysts, and I'll say this, do you know the reason why I always abuse all these guys for being political analysts? See, some of us have owned platforms before. We know as the media. You see, let me tell you, you're suffering. This is your complaint. This is your complaint that you're complaining. I can make money off your complaint. All I need to just do, set up a platform, set up a TV station, set up a radio station, then get a bunch of people every day to come and talk about the problem. Do you think the TV stations are calling you to come and talk because they want the problems to be solved? No. So that's why people like myself, I will call out these people and say, we cannot keep doing political. And I know, even me personally, I've had owned media platforms where there's a problem in the country and, we bring people to speak about the problem and we make money off it. So don't think that because people are just opening their mouth to talk, they want problems to be solved. People are building platforms. People are doing things, and definitely, yes, if you talk about a problem or if you engage in whatever conversation, people want to follow you, people want to, whatever. But as it stands right now, we are at a critical moment where we can't keep doing that. So, this is why we call out all of these people that will say, oh, they just want to come to TV and tell us, oh, protest is a waste of time or whatever. Some of them, their intentions are not even pure. They can't do what you are doing. They can't afford to make that sacrifice. So the only way to belittle that thing, because they all want a part of what you are doing. They want to rip off the benefit of what you are doing. But because they are not able to engage in that thing the way you are supposed, the way others are able to engage in it, then they will now tell you, oh, protest is a waste of time. And that's the case of many of these people, like the one that you're talking about. Because I don't like to give them, there's nothing spectacular about these people. Like, there's nothing. If you keep on speaking, if I keep on speaking for the next 5 years about politics, I'll be more popular than 90% of the people that parade themselves in our political space. The only people that we should respect in the Nigeria that we have today are people, and this is what I say, people who are doing something. You cannot say it's a waste when you have not done that thing. Especially like when I started speaking the last time, I said, if you look back, because we always go so far back in history, we talk about French Revolution. Bro, in the last 10 years, why are we even saying the last 10 years? This year in Bangladesh, they took out a dictator. The people put their boot on the ground until they took out that leader. That was, so when someone would watch that, in fact, the end bad governance in Nigeria is not because Nigerians believe in protest. Why it happened is because Nigerians saw a country, Kenya. It's because of Kenya. It's not because of any other thing. You understand? Because a lot of us were shouting protest, 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 and people did not want to protest. We said protest is the way. They said, no, shut up. What are you talking about? But when they saw what happened in Kenya, they were now outraged. That's why the first artwork for the End Bad Governance in Nigeria protest modeled what happened in the artwork of the Kenyan protests, right? So people who say protests are a waste of time, for the most part, have ulterior motives. They are not, it is not genuine. The only pathway to a revolution, in my own opinion, is protest. If and like again, when we mean pathway, like you're passing through a particular path, and the path you must pass to achieve that revolution is via protest. There is no other way. I have tried to search. I've even waited, like you know how it is now, where we are waiting for Fearless in October, right? And people say, oh, but that your protest, you are announcing dates. Why are you announcing dates? What's wrong with you guys? I know they hear what. Now, we now told them, okay, we are not now, okay, we've announced our own date. We believe that we should protest with dates. You understand? We believe that we can organize our protest and announce it. So all of our members, all of our people are aware and we can prepare. So if I need to work, like me now, I work. So I need to work. I need to put things in place so that that particular 1 week or however long is going to go on for, I can actually sacrifice, that particular period in time. I can actually sacrifice that time. Yeah, to say that I can actually sacrifice that particular time. That's to say, okay, I want to actually protest, right? So we've now said, okay, people who don't believe in that you should announce dates, why don't you do something before that time? And we've given them almost 1 month, and guess what? Nothing. But the moment that we that believe in this particular action will now come out, they will now start hearing all sorts of funny things that, oh, protests don't work. Protests work. It is evident. I can produce numerous evidences that it works every time. And the only way we can achieve that system change is, via this protest. I'll give an example with the this recent Shore coming back to Nigeria and not getting locked up or whatsoever, which if we did not start a protest, immediately was arrested, most likely they'll have taken him to another location. You need to protest to people even need to even have, when people say, oh, if you protest, you will not achieve the final objective. If people have not protested one small police extortion, right? Trust me, there is no way they can advocate for a system change. Because changing any system is the most Herculean task that anyone can ever engage on. So yeah, and I'll round up by that. I just want to round up on this. Like, changing a system is the most Herculean task that anyone can ever, embark on, because the world as we see it today is controlled by adults, and adults don't change. They people resist change. People like it's a psychological thing. People are okay with systems. So when you try to change a system, you most likely get killed. The man who told them that the earth was not flat, what did they do to him? They killed him. You understand? There's so many other examples that I can even try to give you. If you believe in religion, Jesus Christ tried to change a particular system and they murdered him straight, because people are comfortable in whatever lies that they believe in, right? So the only way to achieve system change is by small pockets of action, which is why we are answering the major topic, the major subject, which is protest a waste of time? One small action leads to several others. Let's remember the NSAS protest. Trust me, a lot of people will not say it, but it was the revolutionary protest of 2019 that led to NSAS. Because a lot of us that went, to go and protest NSAS had seen what had happened in the Revolution Now protest. And mind you, I did not join Revolution Now protest, but I saw it, and I was a huge supporter. And even my friends around were telling me, but guy, you're a supporter now. Why didn't you go to the Revolution Now protest and everything? So when we heard of another action, now tomorrow, if any individual in this country now, the state threatens that they want to arrest them or whatsoever, trust me, they will not resist. They will not even try to think about it. They would pack themselves to wherever they want to arrest this person if they believe in that line of action, and they go and protest it. So if we're going to achieve a revolution, that's why I've never heard any top revolutionary in the world, and I mean people that have done it, say, oh, protest is not the way. They all believe in protest. You cannot have a revolution in a nation where people don't protest. You cannot even have a revolution. In fact, let me even tell you, even other means of protest, the system they will happily even engage you in that means. But the one, and if we want to, shake the establishment, we must go for the means that upset them the most. We've had someone in Nigeria today that went into a plane and was saying, oh, what did they do to him? They dragged him out. We had someone that climbed the mast and they brought him down and almost sentenced him for this thing. But the only one that they cannot stop, and mind you, we don't even need all Nigerians, to engage in this kind of action. So, the only one that gives them headache is that physical protest. And it is the one that I actually even believe in the most. It's the only thing that I think is close. Where if you even Google the word revolution and click on images and see what comes out, it is by protests. Now, to achieve a system change, or to even achieve that change you want, you must first convince people that they have ability to change small things. You understand? And that system change you want is a long process. It's going to be a long process, but eventually or initially you must protest too. I don't want to ramble on and on. But what I just want to say, and the point I'm trying to drive home, is that let's stop giving credence to one individual. Like, our objective, my personal objective, is to be more popular than all these people in the next 5 years. Because, yes, but when it comes to political engagement, because a lot of them are daft, they don't know anything. There's nothing so special about these individuals. They keep on throwing out all of these things and they keep on giving us headache. You understand? When you see, they celebrate people who they on one line, because they'll celebrate people who are doing that line of action. On another line, they will not tell you that in your own country it's not going to work. Now, you look at the statement that we are not citizens. It's a dumb statement. I am a citizen. If anybody believes in any utopian, there's one Nigeria that will be born later, all this nonsense, all these things that people just say to just hear, like enjoy the sound of their own voice. We are what we are right now. We are already a people. We're already Nigerians as it stands right now. And if we were citizens, what would be the need to actually protest? There won't be a need to protest if we were all citizens. So, or if we were treated the way he wants us to be treated, in order to call ourselves citizens. So let us stop this whole thing of trying to say, just demobilizing people and whatever. And again, we need to really grow our influence, because when you grow your influence, people like that will not be able to come and deceive people, because millions of people are watching. And when you tell them protest is not the way, they will sit down in their home and just watch you. And I know every day nothing happens, but every single time that something has happened in Nigeria, it happened on the back of protest. And nothing would ever happen, not now, not anytime in future. No revolution will ever happen. No system change will happen. No good elections will happen. Nothing good will happen in this country until people protest. And the protest is not going to be by, even sit at home will not work in this country. The only thing that will work in this country is when people go out of their house and protest physically, boot on ground, until they get what they want. So that's basically what I wanted to say about, this whole issue of mentioning individuals, who don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Yeah, but that's it.
Yeah. Because I take your point, especially at the end where you said that who in fact is a citizen. If someone is a citizen, do you think they would even have reasons to protest? Because everything will be provided for you now. You'll be maybe you'll be protesting for environment anyways. Stop cutting down our trees. That's a kind of protest we like to all participate in it. We'll not be saying don't crush us on the street and things like that. But that's a very important point that I was like, yeah, because I'm trying to also understand the whole topic around citizenship. And I think Olamide also said that that's a longer conversation, right? When you're like, who even confers citizenship? Like, sometimes it's like, by the virtue of me being born, I'm a human, like I have rights, things like that. And if it's like, now you're saying, okay, we are citizens of this place, and you're like, when did Nigeria start again? And you're like, my ancestors have been here though before then. And people that are telling you, okay, I actually do not want this tag, and you're still saying, no, you cannot go. You still have that conversation to also handle. So it's like, okay, that's a broader conversation anyways. But before we even like wrap it up, I think that I would like to just hear everybody's the Olamide's take and maybe Sinosha's on what they would just say to normal Nigerians, because there are sometimes that when we are communicating, we tend to not just be academic, but we tend to be like maybe communicating with people who are thought leaders, in quote, in their different type of silos. So it's like you're talking to maybe the APC supporters who are creating and a certain type of narrative. Today there's been a trending tweet that is about from some SSA, just irritating things like that, where it's like there are these people that keep pushing this propaganda or this thing for. So it's like maybe sometimes we try to tackle that, because you also make sure that your own narrative is like the leading, the more important one, especially in the media, right? So it's like sometimes we're talking to them, sometimes we're talking to ourselves, but then it's like there's this pool of Nigerians that I feel like they are often they are just there waiting for all of you to just thug it out and then come to them, right? So it's like when you're coming to these Nigerians, and I can see that a large portion of them, even though their mindset is really shifting, there's really, the hunger is hitting. It's always been hitting, but I know it's really terrible, especially just seeing the fuel price, so what would you be your message to those people that would still be in those conditions, and they'll tell you protest is not it, those kind of things? What would you say? Olamide, can we hear you?
Yes, thank you. Before I, speak to. I don't think I want to speak to brothers and sisters. I've always been speaking to brothers and sisters. Anyway. I just want to say that, in my opinion, I think there's a fundamental problem where we think there's a one thing, there's a one way. There's no one way. It's we are we are digging a hole for ourselves, and I was hoping that we'll have this conversation maybe sometimes later about this one way thing, and how the oppressor will use it. They will say, no, don't do the other thing. No, this is the only thing you can do. Continue doing it. If moment you mention another thing, there will be problem. And because we've already put it in the minds of people that it's only one thing, when we have the opportunity to do another thing, it's a problem. We are fighting a system. The system is beating us left, right, and center. We do not even we're not at liberty to pick and choose the strategy we want to use just for picking and choosing sake. Right. And that was what I was talking about. Objective. That is the objective that will define the tool or strategy to employ. So if the definition of, and I do not have any problem with anybody defining revolution, however they want to define it. So if the definition of revolution is ousting the president, or when Tinubu resigns, we say it is revolution, I will stand up, clap for you, even help in the in your struggle of saying, when Tinubu resigns and say he needs to leave Nigeria, that is when revolution happens. Yes, I will agree, but I know that that is not my final destination. So when we're protesting for that, when we have that, yes, we'll move on to the next thing. You've made the example. I think not Drew Timmy, but I think it was Sinosho that talked about Bangladesh. He mentioned Bangladesh. He talked about Belarus. In Bangladesh, I think Dorothy also mentioned Bangladesh. In Bangladesh today, they've removed their president, the woman, I believe she's in London, and they've brought in a professor there. But the system is still in place. The system is still in place. I wouldn't say waxing strong because they just finished fighting a battle, not the war. And the system is still in place. All the examples of successful protests are given, the system remained in place. They were very successful because of the objective. The Alake of Egba was removed. But guess what? Some years down the line, Awolowo brought him back. Awolowo brought him back. The Ali must go protest was successful, and I think I've already given why it was successful. But the fees were not reversed. It was still 50 kobo. We get 50 kobo that they increased is it 50 kobo or 59? I can't remember now, but that they increased, but I know it was 50, right? But it was successful because we knew what happened with the anti-SAP protest and how it gingered in Nigeria, what gingered the people. And we can look at series of examples. Like again, it is the objective. If our objective is whatever we define revolution to be, then it's going to dictate the strategy we are to employ, because revolution is not sentimental. Revolution is scientific. We need to sit down, look at which strategy can we employ. That people call strategies. The moment we are protesting, we should have people boycotting. The only reason the government was so scared of the Ali must go protest was because students were also boycotting lectures. They were not saying we are protesting and then they will now go for lectures. No, they were boycotting lectures and were still doing mass protests, marches and rallies and demonstrations. It makes no sense that students are protesting on the streets and workers are going to work. We must all do it at the same time. We are striking, we are boycotting, we are protesting, we are writing letters, we are bombarding them left, right, and center. We cannot just look at one strategy and just stick to one strategy. It is very important we're clear on that, and on the effectiveness of protest, I think that cannot be questioned. That anybody that says protest is not effective does not know what he or she is talking about, really, right? Protest is very effective, but because of our situation in Nigeria, situation in Africa, the system we are up against, protest cannot be the only way. Protest is a way, boycott is a way, picketing is a way, striking is a way, and all this, and it must be said that all this operate, or we can employ all this within organizations. We must be organized. I've been refraining myself to speak on Kenya. I don't know if anybody is following up what is going on in Kenya. I'm not talking about the protest, but what the government is doing after the protest. I don't know if anybody is following up with the Kenya situation now, because everybody was very happy talking about the Kenya protest. But what have we learned from that? What have we learned from the NSAS that they've scrapped SARS and they've replaced it with SWAT? And we now have a situation where police even have the effrontery to even be sitting in people's cars with AK-47 threatening to kill them in 2024 after the NSAS. Come on, we must learn something from that. And that is not to me, because I've already established that it was successful, based on some things. I don't know people that live in Lagos. I don't know if you guys still pay toll at the toll gate, the Lekki toll gates today. But that's one of the sources that was recorded. At least for some time, nobody paid anything. People were moving up and down, and that. But we must give credit to NSAS, to brothers and sisters, and probably this is the closing. I know Alisa will be like, "Oh my, this guy, just close up till they talk." To conclude, brothers and sisters, we are children of sacrifice. We are a product of many sacrifices. We've highlighted in our discussion the different protests that we had, and people died. We are children of sacrifice. Even the little things we have today is a product of that sacrifice, which is protest. So we must be willing and be ready to make sacrifices. We must be willing and be ready to come out, not just for our ancestors that fought for us, but for ourselves and for the future generation. And it's a matter of responsibility. It is not a matter of we choosing or not choosing. However, just like that African proverb says, that no matter how hot the water from your well is, it cannot boil your rice. Our will to make sacrifices and our will to move forward, and our firm conviction in our sufficient in our sufficient will to win in our struggle is not enough. We must marshal our forces, organize ourselves, and channel all our actions towards winning our struggle. We must get organized, brothers and sisters. And as we move out on the 1st of October this year, to show the government our power and to show them that we are not interested in what is going on, and we are not happy with what's going on, and show our disapproval with the system. We get results from that. Thank you so very much, Alisa, Timmy, and Simon.
Yeah,
Yes,
Alisa, just before you come in, let me just come in on this issue again of protest being the only way, or being one way. I forgot how Lamide put it, right? But you see, the truth of the matter is that I think we should do careful studies of our environment, right? When we try to apply knowledge that we have, right? We should try and look at a careful study of our environment. There are people who are trying these other methods that we suggest to people today. There are people who are currently in Nigeria trying them. When we say the Ali Mosque, because we see we are not the only people. You see, sometimes we always feel like we are the side of those who are fighting for change are the only people who are thinking. You are thinking, your enemies are thinking at the same time. You have learned from past history. Your enemies have also learned. If you boycott, if all the Nigerian students today say they are not going to school, the government of Nigeria would not lose sleep. They would not lose sleep at all. If you guys in Nigeria today say you want to boycott anything, I can authoritatively tell you that the government of Nigeria would not lose sleep, because it does not affect them. It does not affect
sorry,
them.
Joshua, for cutting you. Sorry for cutting you. But what about his silence? What about his silence? What about his silent vigil? Are you familiar with his silent vigil? Have you tried that? Like standing in front of the House of Assembly's standing in front of their house in the middle of the night. Everybody will just stand there. We are not moving anywhere. We just be there.
That is
be
a
looking at you
protest
as you are
now.
sleeping.
That's why I'm saying. So
that's what I'm saying. No, sorry, Joshua. That's what I'm saying. No, chill. That is the issue, right? That when we see it as one thing, because like boycott is also protest. And I think you defined that earlier. Boycott is a protest. So when we sorry, let me just land on that. Let me just land on that. And you can browse it. And check. So when we say protest is the only way, like when we emphasize it as the only way, we can make the point clear that we must protest, but we cannot say it is the only way, because when the time comes that we need to boycott, when the time comes that we need to write letters, when the time comes to do other things, because we say protest is the only way.
What I'm trying
we will not be able to do that, but we can say protest is the way, and we must engage. We don't need to pull one down to bring one up.
Can you hear me?
There must be not an either or situation when it comes to the struggle, and I think that's the point to be made.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So what I'm trying to say is, there's no running. I see, I've said this thing clearly, and you can, because, obviously, some of us will speak our mind, and it may not be popular when we are saying it. Anyone who is telling you that you should not protest, physical action, carry banner, stand on the street, has an ulterior motive. I will tell you this clearly. Anyone, if I tell you today that you should not protest, I have an ulterior motive. Because you're writing letter. How can you tell me that we should go and write letter when we've been writing letter since 1960? We should boycott. You think they don't? If when they cut off power supply in Nigeria, and that time I was saying it doesn't affect these guys. People say, what are you saying? You don't know what you are saying. You are selfish. You are entitled. You are this. You are that. These people have not slept without power since the invention of solar panels. Tinubu has not witnessed one day in his house where he does not have power supply. There's a guy that came on Twitter and said this thing, that he installed solar panels, that he cannot count if he starts to calculate the whatever that he has fixed for in politician houses and government houses, you will know that they are not affected by the problem. So all you are doing is just making poor people suffer. Nigerians don't have the capacity to boycott anything because the average Nigerian lives from hand to mouth. When we did EndSARS and we brought down the most tyrannic police force in the police unit in the country, the most tyrannic unit of police that were killing people, we did it and business was still going on. So just to round up, because this argument is an argument that will never ever end. But for me, I think it's more about having. For me, I've chosen to be ideologically clear. I've chosen my route, and for my careful analysis of the situation of the country, who we are, no other method is going to work. I repeat, no, or there's only one method, one method that is going to work. Only one. And that method is protest, physical protest. Put your boots on the ground, come out of your house, scream, block the road, do whatever you have to do. If you like, go and do strike, do whatever you want to do. It does not affect these politicians. If you strike for money, if all the lecturers in Nigeria, you go, their children are no longer in these institutions. Their children are not there. That's why they can keep you at home for 9 months. They don't care. It's not affecting them. The only thing that gives them that fear is when they see people gather in large numbers. There's a particular group in Nigeria today that says they are sitting at home. How has it helped them? They are only sabotaging their own economy in that particular place. It's not even helping them. Not that I don't even want to even put it like that, because that's the argument. But it has not even helped them in any way. Or no, you say every Monday we go on. It doesn't even affect. Nigeria is still going on. So we should be ideologically clear. We should be clear with what we are saying. If we say, protest has gone on in many places in the world and it did not bring, yes, it changed a particular this thing, it did not bring a change or whatever. The fact that people were able to fight against a power is a revolution in itself. It's a revolution in itself. They say a revolution is always ongoing or whatever, so we've not accomplished it. But the fact that you can even fight and change a system is a revolution in itself. Change your leaders. Even in Nigeria, if we can elect someone that the people truly want, that is a revolution in itself. We should not be shifting the revolution back, because when you shift what a revolution means backward, you even make people not interested in even fighting. Because you mean to tell me that you think I will come and kill myself, and you say, I will not kill myself during an election or fighting for our rights, and you will now say that, that's not a revolution. And that's what people like the individual you were talking about before, that's what he tries to do. Protest is a waste of time. So if I had died in that process of resisting the system, there will be mad people that will come out and tell us that, that thing you did, you just wasted your time. No, that's a disrespect to people who are fighting, who are putting their lives on the line, doing what you cannot do, doing what you are afraid to do, what you are a coward to do. You understand? The only reason why we've not seen some of our desired results with protest is because we don't have enough people doing it. Not to come and tell us, let's change format. There's no format. What letter do you want to write? What investigate? I know this is the problem I have with Nigerians. What more thing do you want to hear? What letter do you want to write? What investigative reports do you want to do? Even if you, in fact, even what Olamide just said now, where you go and stand in front of your politician house peacefully, they don't care. As long as you're going to stand there, they don't care. We must go out, we must make noise, we must speak. And only when you have built on that step one, that protest is the foundation before you can now get to any other level. So anybody who identifies as anything, a change seeker, a revolutionary, whatever, and does not understand that that protest must be achieved first. People must put their boot on ground in millions. For the sake of history, I think some of us just have to say it. It's not about, who knows better or anything. I think it's about, for the sake of history, nothing will ever happen in this country. Nothing until you can do that protest. That protest is the only pathway. Every other thing you are trying to do has been done before, and it would never work. But historically, Nigerians don't protest. We don't protest. We don't have a
I'm
sample
sorry,
size of.
but I can't. I'm sorry, but I just need to, because when we hammer on things like this,
No, go ahead.
people
Go ahead. Go ahead.
listen
Go ahead.
to us, and we need to be careful. Because when we say things like this, we need to be very careful. We are revolutionaries. We are not sentimental. We are very scientific in our approach. We know what we are doing, because when you now say things like this, then people now say, what about the 2012 protest? We had millions of people on ground. This is not to say that protest is not
We didn't even have
effective. I'm
millions of people. We
saying,
had 100.
and
In Nigeria, the people that
all right, we
protested in
had,
2012
we
were
had,
not up to 50,000. They
the
were not up to
Occupy,
50,000 people.
the Occupy. Yeah, let's agree that they were not up to 60,000 people. My point is, we need to, in as much as we are pushing, and it is very clear, and I think we've made the point clearly, as much as we are pushing that we need to protest, we need to be also careful of how we are pushing it. Right, and I was just forced to say, just calm down a little bit, because questions like that, we then say, oh yeah, now when we go protest, people don't die now. What's going to happen to them? We need to also,
No,
when
but
we
we
say
can't, Olamide,
boycott, it's
we
not that we
can't
just
calm down.
believe.
Do you know
Chill.
the
Let me
reason why
just
we
land on
can't
this. Let me
calm
just
down?
land on this. Let me just land on. Let me
Because
just
there
land
are
on this point.
people
Let me just
who
land
are
on this point.
going out
Chill.
there.
Let me just land
Okay,
on
go
this
ahead.
point. Yeah, let me just land on this point. Yeah, let me just land on this point. That's what I'm saying. We are not sentimental. Yes, I personally,
No, but it's
we
not
should turn
sentiment now.
everything. Yes,
What have I
but
put out that
let
is
me just
sentiment?
land. Let me just land on this. Yeah, let me just land on this point. Sorry. Yeah, thank you. Now, when we have a situation, because we are actually analyzing before we are talking, it's not that we just feel like, oh yeah, boycott is going to work. But we have a situation where our people are saying they don't want to come out because they're going to get killed, and they are actually not coming out because they don't want to get killed. It's not like you're just saying it and they're saying it. So I say, okay, since now indoors, when I want to stay inside, you can actually stay indoors by boycotting, and that will
People
still
have
affect the
never said
system.
they want to
So
stay
those, let me
indoors.
just land.
That's a figment of
People are saying they
anybody's
don't want to.
imagination. There's nobody in
Well,
Nigeria that has
I
told
might
you
say, yeah,
that they want to
chill,
stay
chill.
inside.
Draw to me, because
In the
like you said, it's
southeast.
an argument. I'm not really chill. Chill. I'm not talking about sit at
No,
home.
because you are
When
saying you want to be
when we're talking about
scientific
it's an
now. So we cannot be, if you
chill.
say you want to be
Listen
scientific,
first. The
at
thing is,
least the
it's not an
little science I
argument,
did,
right? It's not an
you
argument.
work with
Yeah,
facts.
just listen to me first. So let me just land first on this, right? And on the fact shows that when we tell our people to come out to protest, they say they don't want to come out to protest. So when I say they want to stay indoors, I'm not talking about sit. I'm saying that people don't want to come out for protest, and we hear a lot of people, unless you want to deny that our people are saying that they are scared. And that is why we tell them that you must lose your fear. There's a reason we have that saying. When you lose your fear, there's nothing else. There's a way we say, if you lose your fear, you gain everything. Something like that. There's a reason we are saying they are afraid. They are definitely afraid. We must recognize that yes, they are afraid. So when people are saying, as we protest, those of you that are scared, the chickens among you, you can still contribute. The chickens among you, the cowards among you that will not come out, that are fearful for the life that you've already lost, you can still do something. And that's what I'm saying. We need to be careful. Your point has been made very clear. Nobody on here ever said we should not protest. Everybody on here agreed that we must protest. But we definitely know that we have cowards. And because we are scientific in our approach, we look at variables. We know that we have cowards among us. And they are still, not that they don't want to act, but because they are still fearful, we can then introduce some other things. I am principle, based on principle, I am against saying boycott will not work. Protest will not. Based on principle, I'm against anybody saying protest will not work. How dare you say protest will not work? But at the same time, how dare you say boycott will not what will not work? All the examples I've given, that have produced results based on what they've set out to do. They had to boycott. The Egba women boycott. Belewura in Lagos boycott. The Iva Valley massacre. That led to people fighting for the independence of Nigeria. That the NUJ and the TUC. Is it TUC now? The journalists and the teachers, I've forgotten the name of their unions. How to start protesting? How to work started with the the mine workers doing Operation Go Slow. They did not even protest. They're saying they are not going to work long hours. They were just doing slow. And that was what led to it. So we cannot say it is one thing. Your point has been made very clear. But at the same time, when we now push it too much, we just lose. You could just lose
No, but
the
so Olamide,
glory
now when
within
you
it.
say you
And
want
that's
to
the
be
point I'm
scientific,
making.
right? When you say
And
you want
I
to be
hope the
scientific,
podcast is not going to be too long. Well, yeah.
No. It's
I'm
a,
telling you,
I
I'm
think
just
that
here listening because I'm trying to come in to.
yeah,
Because,
but
I think that.
yeah.
Okay, make your point, Dorothy.
Okay, all right. You see, this is a very important conversation to have, right? And I've tried my possible best. I've done it on different platforms, and I've stated my points. And again, this is why I said people who are parroting these ideas are just individuals. No one is bigger than the major objective. The major objective is not even a revolution. The major objective is that Nigerians should have a better life. They should have the kind of life they deserve as citizens, right? So let's so that we don't now stereotype, or we don't now cage the development of Nigeria to just a revolution. I know I'm saying this because when you cage it to a revolution, then people who identify as revolutionaries will now be the only people that have one narrative. I am stating
But that's the definition of revolution.
A revolution is a system change. A system change does not mean that it will produce.
No,
what's a revolution?
That is that was what I was saying. That was what I was saying earlier. That different people with their own understanding. You can't have
different meanings of a word. That word revolution means that you change a system. Right? You can even have a revolution. You can have a revolution from socialism to capitalism. Are you aware of that? Where people can
system.
Say this socialism,
a system.
This socialism is putting us in poverty. Wait now,
yes.
Olamide.
Yes.
You can have a situation where you have all this your whatever you want, right? Whatever we want. Or whatever, and people come out and say, no, this system is pushing us even into more poverty, and we want a change. And let me tell you, whether it's a socialist government or a capitalist government, as far as their leaders, they will still use that power to try and fight back and say no. So people can stand up. So what my point here is, and I want to be very clear about what I was saying. A revolution means a system change. What it means to you and I is irrelevant. What does a revolution mean? It means a rapid system change that goes against a radical system change. Something that is fast. Something that is not going to say, you have to go and contest for local government. It doesn't follow the protocol. It breaks protocol. A revolution is a protocol breaker. That is what it is. Right? So if you are talking about a socialist revolution or whatsoever, that is a different thing entirely. You understand? So that is number one. Now, secondly, going back to and I want to be very clear about what I'm saying. Boycotts in Nigeria would not work. I'm saying it again. I'm authoritative because when you say you want to be scientific, you have to present facts. For how many years people were trying to do reform, NSAS reform, write letter, go and do this, go and do that, boycotts, downfall drivers should not come out. All those. See, let me tell you something. We have so privatized our economy that if you are bringing a 1960 example to say that lecturers went on strike when the children of the politicians in those days, right, were going to those public schools, then you don't know what you are saying. Now, if all the public schools lecturers they go on strike, the government does not care because their children are abroad. So when you want to really change a system, you have to look for where it hurts these people. You are saying we should boycott one party. You think do politicians enter BRT? If you like, don't enter BRT now. They will pack it and move on. Politicians in Nigeria own refineries in other countries. They are telling us to go and boycott this. People don't even know what they are saying. They just parrot all of these ideas. So let us be very, very clear. Let's be very, very clear when we are, trying to analyze this stuff. So I think we should not be having all these mixed ideas. If we're going to achieve change in Nigeria, we must protest, and protest is the only way. There is no other way. It is what it is. You write letters, it's not work. You boycott, it's not work. Nothing else will work. People are currently boycotting in the South. How is it going for them? You understand? So that's basically what I want to say.
Oh, okay. I think this is heavy because at the end of the day, I personally, my opinion is that you have to hit the government where it hurts, right? And I think that any of these can do it. I think that the mass march can actually hit them where it hurts, and that's where they feel like they are secure or safe, which is like power. They're like power drunk, right? Then if they feel like you want to overthrow them, then they would want to act. That's one. And then the next point is the boycott one, which I think that there has to be. It's a lot more complex because some of these politicians, or most of them, do not have a lot of things here, but they have their businesses here, and they have their investment here. Even the recent Dangote refinery, if you look through the list of the people that are like the shareholders, I'm sure you see connections there that are to the government. So it's a thing where, yeah, if you boycott, which is why if it's like well planned and you hit them where it hurts, which is like their pocket, then you'll be able to make a reasonable you'll be able to make success from that. And I think that many people made this point when I was talking to someone, and the person was like, during the PDP administration and during the APC administration, during PDP administration, they were still able to like build private universities, own properties in Nigeria where they know that they are actually gaining. So they were still sort of like in a weird way. How when people justify like serious this capitalism is like, yeah, these people can like invest back into the system. So even though they're giving us crumbs, at least they're giving us something. So during the PDP administration, the money was still like in the country to a certain level, but during APC administration they were like taking it out. There's this thing that came out from one state in the north, that someone owns a hotel in one of the Middle East states. That's where people are like going to invest those money outside. It's like, yeah, we can. The whole boycott thing is, for me, I think is very necessary if you want to hit Nigerians, hit the people in power and where it's hot, which is economy, or which is in the and the other one in the aspect of power. And that's how I think that it can actually work. And I think that is important for us to know that. But the whole critique I will have around the other people that would critique maybe a protest stance is that we understand that protest is not a very popular narrative, and that's why you understand that some people that actually have to go this hard, especially when they even put their life on the line for it, right? So for you now, sometimes like, why would you have a lot more critique? And I'm not talking about you on this call, I'm talking about just general some certain type of like narrative. Like, why would you have this like super critique for like the protest than sometimes when you're like pro other aspect of it? And I'm just like, this is too heavy, because at the end of the day it's only a small percentage, if we're being honest, of Nigerians that are pro protest, right? So I think, and the other point that is being made is, if these people are doing protests and you are not agreeing with it, go and do another one, and then at the end of the day, we'll bring it to the same one and say, yo. So that, I think that's the point that some people make, right? But then I think that what maybe Olamide was saying is that you cannot like make it. You can be a truth, a perspective, but then you can't say, no, the other ones that maybe you're saying that people should go and do is not going to work, especially if it's the one that is disruptive. But we have not seen a lot of other disruptive types of movements, which is why maybe you might say, okay, do more on like a little bit more work on disruption in other ways, and actually come and tell us. But I think like, maybe because you said letter writing that we got triggered, I don't know. But me, I completely agree with the whole idea of a lot of things have to come together to make this this thing work. And it's like everybody has to actively participate, because I was watching an interview and David Hundeyin mentioned that people were like, you write pro one side, And then he was like, okay, get a journalist like me to write pro the other side. And I was like, okay, fair, fair. So I don't know. I just think that I think, this follow the money thing, ever since I heard that thing, and you can hit them where the money is, I think it's definitely going to work. And people even said that there are some people that gave critique or analysis that why the whole massacre, Lekki massacre happened was that things were going on, like they were hindering businesses. And that's why they were telling you, when you're protesting, don't block the road. They were hindering businesses in that area. And that was why, that was one of the reasons.
Which is false, which is very false, which is very false, which is an establishment excuse. Because if you look at it,
no. What I'm saying is that's why the government was trying to attack. Like they were ready to bring down everything to stop the protest from going on there.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Because
Alisa,
if they
Alisa,
should block, if you block the airport and
Alisa,
everything. No, what I'm saying is like people did not just go out to protest. It was like, we are going to ground the economy here.
Alisa,
we're going to ground this place to make sure, except if there was no objective, then it's like, okay, why are you like, what was the protest for? There was an objective.
So let me explain to you. There
was an objective why you choose a toll gate. There's an objective why
the reason why they
like,
chose toll gates is
in
because there's no other place for people around that Lekki axis to gather. They sold all the land. There's no place where people can gather. The only reasonable place is that Lekki toll gates. That's why you see people, despite all of the threats, intimidation, most times they still attempt to block that toll gates. That's the only place. That's the only reasonable place where anybody can gather. All the other properties have been privatized, have been sold, including the beach land, including the ocean, including everything. They've sold everything. So let's get it clear. When people say, "Oh, during NSAS, Nigerians were the economy was," it's a lie. It's an establishment excuse to murder people. That same Lekki area has a bypass, so there's another place you can actually pass. Cars were moving at the other. I think there's another road which you can pass, and cars were moving. Business was good because I was in Lagos from day one to the end. To the end, businesses were not disrupted in Lagos. Businesses were operating as normal. It was after the Lekki tollgate massacre before everything had to shut down in Lagos, right? So what I'm trying to say is that when we say this, like, and I wanted to answer something that you said before, where you said, about why we're not seeing people do the other things. Let me tell you why nobody else is doing another thing. Because there's nothing to do. All the people that are saying boycotts are just talking. There's no arrangement of any boycott you can tell me now that will affect the Nigerian establishment. And I said something when I was speaking. I don't know if you guys missed that thing. What I said is, Nigeria has been privatized. If the politicians...
So if you want to tell me that if everybody stop using MTN today, even if they go to Glow, even if they should stop using MTN today, and then let them say, okay, what are the two biggest banks in Nigeria? Everybody just move from those two biggest banks. If yes, you are using another service of the private sector because you don't have any other choice, but you want to tell me that those people that are connected to it, that maybe they launder money through it, or they have, like, those ones, they are like very linked to the government and everything, they wouldn't be the ones to stand up. And if people are like, okay, let's not buy fuel from any other thing in Nigeria, any other filling station, all of us are going to use this one or use two. You should use two because people have to survive.
Alisa, there's only one bank in Nigeria.
I personally think that because businessmen in Nigeria, you can't tell me anybody is doing anything exceptional from their own, intellect. Like there's this IP, like they're getting money for. No, it's all connected to the government.
You see, Alisa,
so they are like,
right? So let me say something about the bank thing, right? There's only one bank in Nigeria, Central Bank. All those other banks, just forget about it. Nigerians, this is why I usually tell people, before you can say people should boycott a particular service, you must create an alternative. During NSAS, if we're in a sane country, and I agree with you, in a sane country, we should be so angry with MTN and all the networks. But what other alternatives do we have? And that's why I said they are not even, there's no telecoms in Nigeria. The only telecoms is NBC. Yeah, because even if you switch to the other network as a sign of disapproval of that particular one of MTN, they can still shut down the one you're switching to. So where you saw people boycott things in the past, they had alternatives. Either they had
No,
alternatives.
that's not correct
Okay,
though. That's not
so let me
correct
let me
because I
just say
don't think
this.
you say
Either they
you
had
need because there are sometimes two systems cannot exist at the same time. Because I've heard this whole alternative argument that you have to still kind of like look for how to create issues with this before you, and then yes, you're like working towards creating your own system, but it's like two systems can literally it's almost like should I all this the word you guys have been using since scientifically impossible, that it's like in the same space two things are existing. So you can't say
Let,
like,
let me
okay,
help
But you
yeah,
know
you.
it's
maybe
possible,
the
right?
alternative you are talking about.
It's possible. Like in the case of banking, and that's why I said this conversation is very, very
I
important,
think that
right? Because in the case of banking, if we're able to create another method of us transferring money between each other. Okay, let me not even say what I want to say because I don't know. Nigerians are not ready, so let me not even say it here. Let me not even waste my time and just kill possible opportunities in the future. Because you understand.
no alternative. I feel like alternatives can exist, but I feel like you cannot still I can also create an argument that they are existing under the same system, because central bank is not who owns central bank at the end of the day. We can keep going and going and going. Then maybe we'll like get to IMF or I don't know, we'll get to World Bank or something, So for me, I just feel like I hear the point that is being made, but I feel like the same thing that is like you don't not shutting down a certain type of like disruptive measure. I'm like against it because I'm like, okay, what you're saying? Like you don't exist to be a critic. I do not buy that idea that some people just stay online and they think their whole existence is to be contrarian. And I think that's like lame.
It's to be
That's
political
not the
analyst.
purpose of your existence. However, however, you need to like be proactive in whatever your belief is, and in most cases, leftists are sort of progressive. I think if you're against like this, there are certain ideologies that you also hold, or certain solutions that you would be able to prefer that would actually be something that will work. Then you need to stand on that and you need to like expand on that and make it like as huge as possible, instead of like all of us like being like quiet and like just like waiting. It's like Afro nihilism. But yeah, I don't know. We need to round up. Oh, you guys, this conversation.
It's a conversation. I think Halisa, right? I think this is a debate that would it would be nice that we have. But when we have, because me personally, I have talked to I've interrogated all of these ideas that people have been throwing around, and I've come to the conclusion that what I am interested in is physical protests. Anything that is not physical protest is a waste of my time, including what I used to do before, which is shouting on spaces, on Twitter spaces, and all of those things. I'm not interested. See, I've given you the formula. Like, these people that own these TV stations, and I'm telling you as someone that's done it before, what they do is just to milk your pain. People are looking for, and I'm not interested in that, because we are at the stage where we need a revolution. We're not at the stage where we are the stage where we need immediate action right now. Fuel went from 200 naira in this country, is approaching 1,000. If care is not taken, fuel will be 2,000 naira per liter soon. People now go to the filling station to buy 1 liter of fuel. Do you know how crazy that is? You understand? So we must be very clear. A lot of people are interested. See, they want to engage you in this talk. Let us keep on talking. Let's go to TV. As you are talking, yes, we are praising News Central, Arise TV. They are making millions of naira in ad spend, in ad revenue on your pain. So these people are not interested in revolution. People who are writing, journalists that are writing in Nigeria, you don't know why many of them are writing. You think they are writing, as you go to their website, you don't see adverts that people are clicking on. So I'm not here for that. I love money. I want to make money. But politically, that's not my objective. I want a change, and I want it now. And if anybody can come up with a more brilliant method than what we are doing, right, they would have done it by now. There is no other method. The only thing they are going to do is to repeat what we have done, maybe later in future. The only method is physical protest. Nothing else works. Physical protest. Our oppressors are mad. And except you want to take it to another level. But that level, they're even waiting for you. Once you come with that one, they will crush you immediately because they have superior power than you. You understand? So let's not even get there.
Okay,
So
let's hear Olamide.
anyways.
Yeah, Olamide, please give us your. It's like
Yeah. So yeah, closing remarks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Overall, one for revolutionaries, conscious individuals, we need to get organized. And I know organized is not one of the words in Nigeria that means nothing. Just like bigots, bogus, and what have you. We just say it's just mere blah. But we need to really get organized because this conversation, boycott, protest, picketing, striking, we mean nothing, absolutely nothing, if we do not get organized. We can look into history, look into recent history, as recent as 2020, where we had the end SARS, and they told us that they've accepted our demands, they even scrapped SARS, but we know that police brutality is still alive today. The simple answer to that is because we are not organized. We've not put in a system that will ensure that even if we die tomorrow or die the day after tomorrow, our children, our descendants will not still face police brutality. Same way the Egba women, although the objective was not to, systematize the process, they just wanted to get things done at that particular time. The Alake, came back, returned after everything they did. People lost their livelihood and what have you. But the Alake still came back. The system still remained the same. So we shouldn't lose focus as organizers. We shouldn't win the battle and lose the war. The focus is the war. We must win the battle and win the war. For brothers and sisters out there, like I said earlier, we have no choice. We have no choice. Even animals know when to react. It is now time for us to react as Nigerians, as African people, as humans. I think that's what I have to say to them, really. So join the October 1st protest. You actually have no choice. It's either you protest or you die. It's either you revolt or you die in silence. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's good. That's very good. Yeah, and I think you also need to understand that organized, it needs to be said as much as possible, like you're already doing. I don't know whether you think it's like so popular, but not really. It's still just in our spaces sometimes. But yes, I think I had to cut this conversation at this point. But there will be more that I would have to talk about. And anyways, thanks for joining us on this conversation today. Follow us on all our platforms, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Listen to full episodes of Out of the Box on Spotify, Audio Mac, Apple Podcast, or YouTube.